there's some trouble at the crossing, someone's gone missing. And they said, hey, we just came across Cahills. We walked across there and there was 3 of us and now there's only 2 of us. And we're worried that someone's been taken. They turned around and he wasn't there. They didn't hear anything, they didn't see anything, they just turned around and he wasn't there. Me and the dude I was working with took out the 308 and the pump action 870 Remington. Rang Gary, briefed him on what I thought had happened, and we combed that river. We combed it and we found, first thing we found was a hat. I was posted to Kumbalanya Police Station, Pelly. I'd been there for a while. It was 16:28. It was 2 minutes to close. Local TO, a couple of them came up and they were a bit panicked. And I could tell on the look of their face that something was up. So at that point, I'd only just learnt how to catch crocodiles and deal with crocodiles and all that sort of shit, because they don't teach you that in the police college. All of a sudden you've got to deal with crocodiles. When you're out in a remote station, it's like, this is part of your job now. That time of year, there's no way that you should be able to get in a 2-wheel drive from Jabiru or town to Cahills. They got a lift back from town, this trio, husband, wife and sister-in-law. They got a lift back there and they were meant to wait there until this crew from Kumbalanya took the Hilux over to pick them up because the water was up. Too big, too much water for a 2-wheel drive, too much water to walk across. The husband, I won't speak his name, but I'd regard him as a friend. We shouldn't walk across there because it's waist deep water and it's running, like all the fresh water coming down still. So his wife went first, then his sister-in-law and then him. And there was about 10, 15 paces between each of them. One would go, the next one went, he went last. Those 2 ladies walked out onto the Arnhem land side. All my hairs are standing up thinking about it. They got out on the other side of that river, 10 metres apart. They turned around and he wasn't there. They didn't hear anything, they didn't see anything, they just turned around and he wasn't there. And they walked for about another 1.5 kilometres before that Hilux that was meant to come across the water and pick them up, picked them up. And they went straight to the police station where I was just about to lock up for the day after doing all the motor vehicle registry licensing and stuff. As soon as they told me what had transpired and how they'd lost this bloke, I was like, we're probably looking at a crocodile attack. So I rang Gary, who'd just taught us how to catch crocodiles. Me and the dude I was working with took out the 308 and the pump action 870 Remington. I took the 870 and I loaded 5 rounds into the tube magazine of auto buckshot. So I rang Gary, briefed him on what I thought had happened and what the tides were doing at that time. We split the team. My partner went upstream, I went downstream with Gary, and we combed that river. We combed it and we found, first thing we found was a hat. The sun was failing, like it was dropping down, and we got about 2-3 k's down the river on this bend, and just before we got there was this slick on top of the water. It was like an oily slick, like if you've left plates in the sink when you're washing up and you're letting them rest and you see that oily thing on the top, It looked like that. And Gary was like, we need to follow that. We followed this oily slick on a silent, dark river, just pushing the boat to a point where the slick stopped and went underwater. And I was on the bow with the shotgun, and as we came to where that oil was coming up, that oil is from human fat. Crocodile came up with this bloke, whose name I won't say out of respect. He was in the mouth of that crocodile. He was face down. He was clearly deceased. And I racked around into that shotgun, and I pulled the trigger, and I watched at least 3 out of those 9 go into the skull of this crocodile and shatter it to pieces. And as soon as that shot went off, it opens its mouth and it let him go. And then in that moment, working with Gary and another ranger, that is the time that you need to get that body back. And to get that body back, you can't get in the water, it's dangerous. And you can't let that body sink. So you have to use a pole and a spear to secure it, and then get it to the side of the boat and lift it up while there's still a crocodile that's killed a person in the water without getting your hands in there. But also making sure that crocodile is dead and not a threat. It's fading light. We've got this guy back in the boat. And he's not in the state that I saw him last. The last time I saw him was 3 days ago, and we were having a laugh, we were having a joke. Because he's a jovial dude. And to get him back and to see him and know that you're never going to have a joke with him again, and knowing that you have to deal with that crocodile that you've shot and make sure you get that too, all in a moment. We got him back. The crocodile, I gave it another round and it sank. Every time you shoot a crocodile in the water, it'll sink, and it'll take 2 or 3 days for it to float up again as it fills with gas. We got him back, and he wasn't in the state I saw him last, and he didn't have clothes, and he wasn't in a way that you'd present to anyone. As we drove back up the river, because we had 3.5 k's to go, we put him in a body bag and we zipped him up to his neck. And then when we were making our way up the river, there was lightning because it was still wet season, but no thunder. And the native hibiscus flowers were dropping out of the trees from the wind. And they were floating silently past the boat. We took him to the morgue in Jabiru, and his wife, who I know quite well, was in Jabiru, and I took her to the morgue with Gary, and I zipped the bag down enough to have his face out, and I cleaned him up, and I brought her in to identify him. She wanted to see all of him, but I wouldn't let her open the bag. Just wanted to see him with dignity. And she did. And I drove her home at the end of that night across the river. And I did all the paperwork and filed all the photos and things like that. And before I went to bed, I thought to myself, this isn't the first time I've seen death, this isn't the first time I've seen something violent or tragic, but I wonder, is this one of those things that's going to come back later on? are the things that I saw today and the things I did, are they going to come back and just appear in my mind when I don't get a choice in it?
The date, the time, it's a yarn. It's educational.
Don't even